Welcome to One on One with the Grim One, the black metal party that never stops. And I am your host, the most electrifying man in co-ops entertainment, the Necrosexual. And joining me on this most morbid of talks, we are talking with somebody diving into Metalheads' most cherished subject, of course. Fiscal responsibility. We have the author of Money Hacks for Metalheads and Old Millennials, Jessi May. Jessi, thank you for enduring that extra wordy introduction. How the hell are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I feel grim.
All right.
Another day in the office in hell. And Jessi May, I got to say, I'm a little disappointed by your lack of moonlighting.
Yeah, we don't have too much atmosphere here. If it's dark, I'll be black and white on the computer.
It's a librarian's atmosphere, which is appropriate for you.
Because bright lights for good reading.
Yes, you got to have the good moonlighting for reading. But hey, if you're being fiscally responsible, maybe you shouldn't blow all your budget on the AV during a pandemic. And I'm not an expert. You are on that. So Jessi May, you wrote this book. It's teaching metalheads like me, men of expensive taste who need guitars and CDs and records and corpse paint and jewelry and gloves and vinyls and some recreational jazz cigarettes on occasion, how to manage your finances, not blow your load in one shot. And you managed to do it in a pretty damn concise little book for $14, probably less than $14. What was it, $13? Pretty cheap either way. How did this come to be, this momentous occasion in literature?
Well, I managed to get it all into a book because of the pandemic. I will say that. I was home and doing distance learning, and that offered some chunks of time that I was able to use to put all this together. But then it started off as a blog column series on alternative control, which perhaps I know the Grim One is familiar with alternative control CT. But if any of our listeners are not, it's a music blog. And I started writing money columns on it. And then I thought that maybe I shouldn't spam the music people with it. So I just wrote it as a book instead.
And I know that you talk about this in your book because I've started reading it. But since you've been in the scene for a long time, you've played in bands like Turkey Vulture and Owl Maker, to name a few as well. Don't sell yourself short there. You're a hell of a musician.
Owls.
Yeah, the owl mugs are not as they seem. Totally brutal. I'm sensing an aviary theme in your bands, all named after usually predatory birds, which is pretty metal.
Pretty metal.
So you went on this journey from a metalhead into an author in recent times, and you have the personal finances as one of the mountains that you're scaling step by step, claw by claw.
Yeah, it's definitely a process.
Yeah. So for people that are at the beginning of this journey, besides buying the damn book and reading it, what are some easy things they can do?
First easy thing that you would do, and chapter 1 of the book, which you could search up on Amazon and have it shipped right to you, is to track your expenses for a month. So if you don't know where to start your climb up the mountain, that's what you do. Just figure out what you take home and save all your receipts for a month and just see what you find out. So that's definitely step 1. Okay, if you find out that you're in the red, step 2 is you have to find a way to either get rid of some of those expenses or make more money. And I mean, it's not rocket science. You start with that, and then there's more things you can do. And the book, talks about some different ways to.
It's so simple. It's so difficult for so many people.
I mean, that's where I am this month. I'm like, well, I already spent all the money I was supposed to spend, and it's, let's see, December 22nd. So Like, what am I going to do? Not leave my house for the next 10 days?
It
Probably
sounds
not.
pretty
So,
brutal, staying at home for 10 days in a row.
it starts off as an easy concept, but in practice, it's not as easy as it seems on paper.
Yes, when you run out of time and you still got to find a way to save that dime. Well, I wish you luck on your journey. And I know that you go into great detail about the ways people can side hustle and save and not blow their load of cash on the aforementioned expenses and luxuries. But I want to know, what is the stupidest thing you've ever wasted your money on?
Oh my God. Well, I spent 10 years investing my IRA in cash. So that was pretty stupid because that's not actually an investment. I traded my functioning car for a car that didn't function. And then I just had to buy a new car, like new to me car, a couple months later. So that's a recent dumb one. But now my car is a lot more reliable. So those were a couple dumb ones. Another dumb one I had this month in my side hustle adventures is selling things on eBay. And I keep selling things for the wrong shipping price. And then basically it's like I'm a charity service that sends things to people for free because they need it. That's basically what's happening.
Shipping can be brutal if you're not careful.
Pretty brutal. Oh yeah, but there's lots of dumb things. I'm sure my husband Jim is over on the couch, and I'm sure he's thinking of things like, well, why isn't she telling him about this thing? So yeah, I've done plenty of dumb things, and that's how I ended up writing about my journey up the mountain, where I'm not to the top yet.
Over the mountain.
Yeah, having a car that leaked gasoline, that was pretty dumb. I thought that in my mid-30s I was over that phase of cars, but apparently not.
Yeah, I mean, are you really a working metal musician if you don't have a car that resembles the vehicle from the Flintstones in some capacity?
Well, it was great. It was a Subaru Subaru Forester 2004.
Those are good ones. Yeah.
Yeah. It was great. It didn't have a ton of miles on it. And you could put the seats down, and you had this great place to load up all your gear. And we started taking it down 95 to go to a show, and the check engine light came on, and before you know it, we're leaking gasoline, and I need to get a new car.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's got 4-wheel drive. The 4 wheels are covered in gasoline that it's leaking, but it's 4-wheel drive.
just don't light a cigarette.
Yeah. Running with the devil. And of course, I myself am no stranger to automobile mishaps. Of course, one of them happened when I played in a show that you were so helpful to help us set up in Connecticut, Cherry Street Station. And the night before your show, I got rear-ended. My car became a necro sandwich, got totally totaled. And so I had to roll up there in a rental car. So that was a little bit of an extra travel budget, but you know what? The show must go on. And I thank you for putting on that show. That was a hell of a night.
That was fun having you guys come up.
Yeah, my drummer was like, man, I've never seen so many old people in one state on the way there. Connecticut. We got a noise complaint that night in the hotel. We were playing Captor.
Too much Franzia.
Yeah, there was Franzia that had been on many different trips by that point. That was like the tail end of it. And then we were playing Captor, Lay It to Rest. This is a great underrated death metal album, but I guess we were just a little bit too loud, so we got a little noise complaint in our hotel. But live to tell the tale and survive the road. And I got to ask you, you played in Owlmaker, I mentioned before, a great band. Do you have anything planned with Owlmaker in the future?
I don't know, man. The pandemic shut down Owlmaker. We were going to come back from a little hiatus in April 2020, and we all know what happened in March 2020. Everything shut down. So we didn't make our big comeback, and then we haven't all been in the same room in like a year. So I don't know. And now I'm having a baby. So
changes are upon us.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not ruling anything out, but there's nothing on the calendar. Let's put it that way.
Yes, a lot of staying at home and having a family. But hey, I don't think anybody can plan for this year that happened the way it did. So what they say about best laid plans, Murphy's Law finds a way to throw a wrench in it.
We're living through a historic time.
Yeah.
Like my kid's gonna ask about it. He's gonna be like, "What did you do in the great pandemic of 2020?" Like, well, not a whole lot.
Right. If we live to be old, it'll be funny, like reminiscing where it's like back in my day, you know, the good old days of modern dystopia.
Yeah. Well, we were living in 1984 with our masks on.
Right. So here we are, but of course you got to keep rocking and rolling.
Yep.
And in the meantime, you play in Turkey Vulture with your husband.
Yeah.
The couple that plays together, slays together forever.
Mm-hmm.
So what's it like being in a creative partnership as well as a domestic partnership?
Well, Jim and I met like 2008, something like that. Playing in a band together. I joined a band that he was in. So we have been in creative partnerships for a lot longer than romantic or domestic partnerships in the span of our relationship. So switching from just being like, buddies and good friends and like being in a band and having some beers to like them being like in a romantic relationship and then starting another band together. Because it's like we were in some other band and I was like, I can't be in a band with my relationship guy. And then went and started some other bird related bands. And then I wanted to be in a band with my relationship guy again. I'm looking over there because he's over there. So then we started Turkey Vulture and then we got engaged and married and now we're having a kid and it's a wild ride.
Yeah, all those baby turkey vulture on the way.
Yeah.
The nest is growing.
Jim, feel free to chime in on this, but I feel like when we do band stuff, it's like back when we were friends, it like is like the old times of drinking beers and having band practice in the basement, even though I'm not currently drinking beers. I think it keeps like a fun aspect in all the domestic stuff. And then after band practice, we can go back to like Jim takes out the trash and, I look at the bills and get annoyed. And then he gets, we got a snowblower on the way. In addition to a baby on the way, we're getting a snowblower.
That's a big life event. I feel like baby snowblower, pretty momentous. They're almost about even.
We had this snowstorm the other day. Well, you guys might have got it in Philly too.
Yeah.
But Jim's out there, he's shoveling, and I'm out there trying to help him, and I'm like falling over. And he's like,
Yeah, you're pregnant. You should maybe
he's like, why don't you go inside? No, I didn't listen right. But eventually it became clear that he was giving me good advice and that it was time to go in. And he's like, you know what? We might need a snowblower for the next one.
Yeah, save it for the mosh pit if you're going to take your spills.
Yeah.
Well, of course, this is one with the grim one. So each week I dive in with my guest to talk about one album that holds a special place in your heart. So Jessi May, what do you say? What album are we talking about?
Live and Dangerous, Thin Lizzy. Special place.
And that is one of the greatest live albums ever recorded by one of the greatest rock and roll bands that ever was, Thin Lizzy.
Yeah, like you were saying, if you're listening to Thin Lizzy, you're having a party. So.
Right.
But no, I heard that for the first time sometime in my mid-20s, and a friend recommended it to me, and he was like, oh, you play bass, like you must like Thin Lizzy. And I was like, the boys are back in town? Like, not, I don't know. Like, I've only heard that song on the radio. And he's like, are you fucking serious? He's like, you have to listen to this. I'm like, okay. And I put it on, and like the opening notes, I was like, oh my God, what is this? And they're like, tonight there's gonna be a jailbreak. And it was great. And I don't know, I never went back.
The radio stations, they do Thin Lizzy a disservice because the only songs you ever hear is The Boys Are Back in Town, which is a great, fun song. But it's usually just that one or Jailbreak. And
when they want to do a deep cut, they do Jailbreak, which is like not a deep cut.
Their other big hit, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's so true. They definitely do them a disservice. And I don't know, like now I hear the boys are back in town and I like it more because I know the rest of their stuff, or like a good amount of the rest of their stuff. And it just it makes the song sound different when you put it in the context of all the other things. But like before I heard this album and then started listening to other stuff by them, I was like, oh, this is just some annoying classic rock song.
Whatever, Dad. Fine,
exactly.
Yeah.
The boys are back.
Yeah. Indeed. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Once you kind of get a feel for the rest of the discography, for me, I can certainly appreciate all the musicianship that you hear in a song like The Boys Are Back in Town, which is just a good old-fashioned, feel-good song to party with your boys or girls or other friends with their dueling guitars and those lead harmonies on full display, but with very crisp, almost pop songwriting. So it's the perfect balance between the radio-friendly stuff and the things that make Thin Lizzy so great.
It's a good point. It's a good way to put it.
So what's your favorite real deep cut when it comes to Thin Lizzy?
Oh, man. I mean, I don't know if I have a favorite. I don't know if my real favorite is real deep, but I mean, Emerald's definitely a top 3. Black Rose is a top 3, a roast and dub. Man, there's some really encouraging songs on fighting.
Yeah.
That the name is escaping me right now because I'm one of those people who puts a CD in the car CD player and then just drives around with it. But hearing that album, like that's one of their less popular ones, and I mean, I could see why. Like it wasn't like an album like Jailbreak or Roast and Dub, but like it has some gems on it. So I guess if I had to pick one all-time favorite Thin Lizzy song, it would be Emerald, even though it's not deep, but it's just so good.
It's heavy. It's probably the most metal song, one of the most heavy songs easily.
Yep. And that's the only Thin Lizzy song that I've ever covered in a band. More than a couple years ago, I was briefly in a classic rock cover band and we played Emerald, and that was like the highlight for me. So.
Such great heights. And you're a bass player. You're also a singer. So I want to know, who are some of your musical heroes or heartthrobs who have inspired you?
Well, I mean, definitely Phil Lynott. Okay, like he's a great bass player, a great frontman. His swagger is amazing. So even though I don't sing like that at all, I definitely try to emulate the swagger. And the bass playing as well. I think that probably comes through more in Owlmaker, but definitely Thin Lizzy overall is a musical inspiration. Spent a really lot of time listening to Weezer. I probably have listened to the Blue Album 1,000 times in my life. And I think that's wormed its way in there somewhere. Man, I feel like there are all these things I should say. But yeah, Turkey Vulture has a lot of folk music influences that are kind of under the surface. But if you know it, then when you hear it, you'll be like, oh, okay. One of me and Jim's old bands got a very good compliment, in my opinion, one time. We had this very wacky vocalist and like a heavy style, but some guy from the metal scene saw us and he's like, you guys are a blues band. And I was like, yeah, we are. You got it. So definitely old blues stuff and folk stuff is under the surface there too.
I mean, every heavy metal band is a blues band if you trace the origins back enough, man.
It is, man.
Shows are on pause, but you've been playing in the scene for a long time, doing rock and roll, folk, blues. Tell me about one of the most memorable shows you ever had.
Oh, man. So this one time, there was also a snowstorm. And Jimmy Junkbird and the Stiffs, that the blues band that was a blues band on the inside. Our singer, the wacky singer, works for the city, and in the signs and lines department, which does plowing in the winter. So if there's a snowstorm, he has to go to work at 2 a.m. and start like salting the roads. So we had this show, and the snow wasn't supposed to start until like very early in the morning. So he's like, look, guys, like I can't play the show. We're like, okay, like we'll just go down, me and Jim, and play it as a 2-piece. So we just did drums and guitar, as I didn't sing at that time, and I don't think I could even sing the stuff that guy sang anyways. And we hung out and whatnot, and then night gets later and people start getting a little more intoxicated, and we had a couple friends down there, and Jim's sister, my sister-in-law Heather, and a couple other friends. And then these guys were getting really like overly aggressive in the mosh pit. And then for some reason there was this woman who was in a wheelchair at the show, and she was like right on the edge of the mosh pit, which seems like an inopportune place to be when you have these bozos, just being completely overly aggressive. But she and the person that she was with did not think that they should move, and the venue at the moment wasn't saying anything to these people. So then Jim's sister, who weighs about 100 pounds, decides that she's going to stand in front of the wheelchair woman and defend her from these 200-pound drunken idiots flying across the place. So then Jim had to go defend his sister and push one of them into the stage, and the guy like landed on his knee and ended up like crying and hobbling away and whatever. But then his drunken friends kept going at it, and then I decided that I had to help Heather defend the wheelchair woman because I couldn't let her do it by herself. And so then one of the drunken idiots pushed me, and then he got picked up by both arms and thrown out the door by some people who were just standing there.
Wow.
And, yeah.
Some mob rules right there.
Yeah. And that was the closest. I mean, we're not very exciting people. So that's like in all the years of the scene, that's the closest we've ever come to getting in like a physical altercation. Well, oh wait. All right, there's one more.
Yeah.
All right. So the 2 times in my adult life I've ever been anywhere near maybe almost getting into a fight. And again, same people. So the folk band was playing, okay? Because I played a folk band too. And perhaps it wasn't our best show. So some people in the crowd were, talking shit, and, I don't know what exactly they were saying, but it wasn't nice about us.
Right.
And Jim's sister and our friend Carrie are standing like right next to these people. And they start like talking shit to them. They're like, hey, why don't you shut up? Like, what's your problem? And then they're like, oh, well, what's your problem? And then before you know it, Carrie, Jim, these hipster idiots, and Heather and Carrie's husband, who was the singer of Jimmy Junkford, the snowplow guy, are all outside on the street in New Haven screaming in each other's faces. And I get off the stage, I'm like, hey guys, what's going on? And they're like, oh, they're talking shit about the shoutbacks. And I'm like, oh. And I think everybody just yelled at each other. Did anyone apologize?
That's the most New Haven thing ever. It's like we yelled at each other and nobody apologized. Tough town.
Dude just shows up and squares off in front of Jess and my sister and our friend Carrie. Like, so I hear someone's talking shit about my band, blah, 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 blah. And I said, all right, first of all, which girl are you going to punch first? Because that's what you're squaring off to. And 2, no one knows you're in a fucking band. Fuck you. And so that's me saying that. And it was my birthday. So I was completely shit-faced wasted. And I just started talking shit to them. And yeah. So once they figured out that I wasn't going to back down, then they went inside. And I was like, play your dumb show and your dumb music, and I'm going to sit and watch and not be an asshole like you are. I'm going to actually sit and pay attention to you.
And they played at the end, and like everybody had left,
Yeah.
except for like us that they got into the fight with.
So
We're
we-
just like,
Yeah, so we hate watched that.
yeah,
Yeah.
And then they came out and apologized because their guitar player has a big mouth. And it's like, check your guitar player then. Don't come out and start fights with strangers when your guitar player is the jerk. Back to Jess.
Right. Wow.
yeah. Those are the don't fight us. Don't fight Turkey Vulture. We'll get into a verbal altercation with you.
No
And
apologies.
he watch your band.
And then we'll stick around and still watch you.
Yeah.
Well, good on them for eventually apologizing. Totally brutal. And it's funny you mentioned your friend that works for the city department, the wacky one, because I know a couple of people in my scene who also work for the signs and lines, if you know what I
Lines and
mean.
lines, man.
Yeah, they do like the
Oh.
laying salt thing, but in reverse.
They pick it up.
Yeah. What do you think makes for the perfect heavy metal song?
Oh man. Well, you gotta have a cool intro riff. You gotta have some guitar harmonies. You have to have a bass line that doesn't just copy the guitar, that does something interesting in itself. Then you have to have non-crappy vocals. In my opinion, I prefer like lower style metal vocals. Like the more gravelly kind of stuff rather than that kind of stuff. But I mean, that's really just a matter of taste. So I don't know. That's what makes it cool to me.
Yeah, no disrespect to all the gremlin vocalists out there.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Not my thing. I might not buy your record.
You
Not
should
per-
watch your band if they don't suck. You're
Yeah.
they do suck, yeah.
I'll stand there. I'm not going to the merch table though.
Excellent. Well, I want to say, Jessi May, thank you for going one-on-one with the Grim One. What do you want to say to all the heavy metal hellraisers who are watching out there?
I want to say thank you for watching and thank you for caring about stuff like this in the midst of a pandemic when there's so many other things you could possibly care about than watch the Zoom interview. God bless you, Grim One. So stay safe and keep supporting heavy metal.
Heavy metal is the law. And hey, read her book. You might learn a thing or two.
Oh yeah, read the book.
Yes, read the damn book. You got plenty of time. There's no excuse.
yeah.
Pick it up. Start saving your receipts. See all the stupid shit you blow your money on. And then maybe thank her later.
Hell yeah, man. Amazon. Money hacks for metalheads and old millennials. That's you and me.
Right? Yes, we're aging millennials. And here's the book. I got one too, all right? I'm a student of the Owl Master, Jessi May. This has been another transmission from the Necrosexual's lair. I am the Necrosexual, and I've got one-on-one with Jessi May. I will see you in hell. Thanks a lot, Jessi.
Woo!